Thanks for coming, everybody. This is Project Room Service. A little introduction. My name is Robert Ward. This is my bio that I wrote 5 minutes ago. In my day job, I'm a software developer, so I wrote most of the code for what you're going to see today. This is Joe. Joe, by day, is a security analyst who helps keep all of your medical data secure if you go to Washington University for any sort of an ailment. So what is Project Room Service? Does anyone else take way too much shit with them when they travel, like especially electronics and gizmos and stuff like that? So we were sitting around after DEF CON a couple weeks ago talking about, like, it's just a pain to get there and have to set everything up and have all this trouble plugging everything in.
Well, drinking beer.
Obviously.
All of our projects
that
goes beer.
That goes without saying. So the goal of room service was to put all this stuff into this.
Yeah. For the record, that's a photo of our hotel room at PhreakNIC 19, I think. Everything that we had on each of our beds. You can see lots of gear, obviously. If you look really closely, I'm actually mid-Linux install on my laptop there. So basically, when we check into a hotel, we spend hours hooking up our own little private LAN in the hotel room before we can actually sit down and relax. And Project Room Service is less about trying to reduce the amount of crap, but more streamlining it. If you look closely in that picture, among the things you can see, multiple laptops, multiple Raspberry Pis, Wi-Fi Pineapple, Ubuntu, a bunch of tools like that, multiple tablets, hard drives, more than we would ever actually hook up during a weekend here, but we bring it anyway because, I don't know, we're probably compulsive gadget guys or something like that. So what was our goal with the project? That didn't move ahead like I thought it was going to. There we go.
No, you were right.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is, project goals. So we wanted to be able to hook up a small LAN in the hotel room so that we can connect all of our devices, have the internet feed be from the hotel Wi-Fi or LAN, whatever's provided. Gets us around any kind of device limit. In some hotels, they say, okay, you can only have 2 devices or something like that. We can plug everything we have. We wanted instant on VPN access because usually we go to hacker conferences and we don't trust any of you. Plus, video stream to the TV. So we've got a little media center in there. Want everything accessible via touchscreen interface so that we can, for simplicity's sake, and like I said, media storage, so there's a hard drive in there for plenty of media storage. We also decided it would be nice if we had like some sort of security system so that we know if somebody entered the hotel room, even if it's just the cleaning staff, but clearly we bring a lot of expensive equipment with us. We'd like to keep it somewhat safe, or at least notice or have someone notify us if it has been stolen. And have any kind of events or things triggered by on the LAN by notification via email. So other design goals as far as physical construction, wanted everything to be able to easily accessible so we can get in, repair stuff, swap components if need be. Ruggedness, we wanted to put it in like a big sturdy case, so we want everything in there to be fairly secure as well. Just the case, we don't want just the case to survive, we want the hardware inside to survive as well. Upgradability, this was just kind of the first phase of the project idea we had. We want to be able to expand it out, add even more gadgets and gizmos to the whole thing. And of course, ease of use, because like I said, the whole point of the project is just to come in, plug in, and go, and have that be that.
So this is what we came up with. You can kind of see the top-down picture there. Joe will open it up here. So you can kind of see we've got got the touchscreen, some storage for wires, storage for the camera over there, power supply, a bunch of other stuff. Joe and Joel will talk about this more in detail. We've got our own little mini Raspberry Pi server rack right here with a few extra spots for when we want to add stuff.
How many pies are in there?
Just 2 right now, and we have space for 3 more. Space and power, which I think we've tested. If we add all 5, we would have to put in a bigger switch, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal.
So, next up, Bob, if you want to point out the pieces of that. So, going over some of the hardware choices, why we picked. First off, we basically have a big kind of multi-port USB charger. I'm sure a lot of us have these at home for charging all our phones and devices and stuff. Usually, I got a couple of anchors at home. I found this one though, in particular, and decided on it specifically because it's got this little LCD that shows you the power draw on each port. And we thought that, we've got a lot of stuff plugged in. That might be handy to have. So we went with that. And also, the goal of this was to have as much powered on USB as possible. Well, both of us do a lot of dabbling in electronics and building stuff. Engineering power supplies is not one of my strong suits, nor is it Bob's. So we thought if we keep it USB all the way through for the first round, that would keep things nice and simple. So obviously, there's also a couple of Raspberry Pis in there. They're simple, cheap. Again, USB powered. We thought about going with Pi 4s, but we weren't sure that the power brick would give the appropriate output to run the Pi 4 at full power. So we stuck with Pi 3s because for what we're using it for, it's good enough. It'll run the media server. In a future upgrade, we want to look at upgrading to Pi 4s, but that's going to be the next revision. Plus, I already had several of these sitting around, so that saved on cost. Next up is the display. When we first looked at this, we looked at, it was either this or the official Raspberry Pi touchscreen display, and we were thinking about the official Pi display just because for accessibility. We were like, all right, here's the piece you go get, because we want other people to be able to build this. But the more we looked at it, this device I found on Amazon has a higher resolution, as well as it being driven by HDMI cable instead of the thin little ribbon cable. Came into play with the whole ruggedability. I was worried about that cable being damaged versus the HDMI cable being a little more rugged. Also, with the Raspberry Pi display, that short, I mean, you can get longer cables with those ribbon cables, but you're really kind of limited in length, so it would have really affected our design placement of where we wanted everything at. Also, this was cheaper at $50 versus the other monitor with the official Pi display is about $80.
And what's the brand name on that?
I don't think it really had a brand name. But you'll see at the end, I do have a bill of materials of all the parts we put with Amazon. Everything was purchased off of Amazon except the acrylic and hardware. I went to Lowe's. And so that'll be posted online with everything else. The hard drive. So obviously, since ruggedability, we don't want spinning rust in there. We wanted an SSD. And the choice of SSD was pretty simple. I've got a good friend who is a drive data recovery expert. She also recently gave a presentation at this past year's DEF CON in the Hardware Hacking Village. So I said, hey, what's the best SSD for my use case? She said Samsung T5. I said, okay, that's what we went with. I only went with 500 gigs because thought about going a full gig or terabyte, but I was like, how much binge watching can I really do on a weekend? Especially when I'm supposed to be out at the conference. I probably could still do quite a bit, but I think 500 gigs is still going to be enough. Because it's just a trip thing, not all my media. We were going to go for, again, the official Raspberry Pi camera module we thought about. We wanted to hook up a camera to the surveillance system. But again, we had the same ribbon cable issues with the screen. Also, limited placement, just like with the screen. So that meant we would have, all right, do we attach it to another Pi, like a Pi 0? Then we're adding additional Pis. How do you connect it? You can't do it over USB. It's got to be either Wi-Fi or something, or hook up a dongle. It wasn't going to be as simple a solution. So Bob found this online, and it's a megapixel resolution. It's got IR night mode and a really long. It's designed to be a security camera, and with the really long cable, we weren't limited by where the plugs were in the hotel room. We could hook it up and then move the camera somewhere else, kind of run the cable a little bit, and make sure it's pointed at the door. And then kind of one of the more important pieces is this network switch. You got to hook these Pis up together. There's only so much on the little travel router. So this is a 100 megabit USB switch, 5-port, that runs off a micro USB. I mean, I don't think it's like full duplex, but again, it's one of those, hey, it's good enough things. And it's just, it's super tiny, and it's something you can throw in your bag. I really like the idea of it. So I do carry one in my bag, but it was also kind of perfect for this because, again, USB powered. We don't have to mess with any designing any kind of power supply or anything like that. And if you do need something faster, there is actually a gigabit port on the router, which we'll get to in a minute. Media remote. Not super exciting, but I was excited when I found this. We went back and forth on, do we include a remote for the media center? Does that mean we got to set up IR? Is it going to pair to try to mimic the codes of the television in the hotel room? But then I found this one when I was searching online. It's a media remote, but it basically functions as a wireless keyboard. So it's 2.4 gigahertz over a little Wi-Fi dongle, which got rid of any IR things. We didn't have to use the app. And as you can see, on one side there's actually a little mini QWERTY keyboard with a trackpad. Plus it's got like a gyroscopic mouse that you can turn on and off. And so all the media functions are just going through the media keys on the keyboard, like when you hit function F2 to hit play and pause on your laptop. So I was really kind of tickled by that. It was like $8 or something like that. It was pretty cheap. And so it was a lot of, we were really excited to find it. Just want to throw that in. And then the router. This is really kind of the heart and soul of the whole thing. We've been kicking around this idea in some form or fashion for years. Basically every time we have a trip and we pack all of our gear. But this thing kind of almost tanked the project from the start because it's so versatile. Anybody ever seen this? I know they're pretty popular now, or getting popularity. It's from GLINet, model number GLAR750S, if you want to look it up. It is an OpenWRT-based router. It's got 3 gigabit ports on it. AC 120 Wi-Fi, 128 megabytes of RAM, micro SD card, so you can load files and stuff onto it. Again, USB powered, micro USB. And it's kind of designed to be hackable. Like you can open it up and you've got access to the antenna, so you can replace the antennas. I think there's even like a TTL connection over there, so you can actually hook up and use a serial connection. They really wanted it to be hackable when they made these little things. And it's about, what was it, $80, I think. And so, again, it's another essential, even if you don't build one of these, just an essential travel router. Really handy. So this is the whole bill of materials. We actually didn't put the fans in this version. We thought about cooling fans and we decided it's going to be open. It should have plenty of airflow. But it didn't come out quite as cheap as we want. Current tally is about $638. We were a little sticker shocked by that because it's it's a bunch of everything. Every piece is under $100, so we were like, this will be pretty inexpensive. No, not so much. But made for a fun project anyway. Anyway, Bob, you want to tell us a little bit about the software?
So just kind of going over the off-the-shelf software, there's a little bit of custom stuff for this, but a lot of it's just kind of plug-and-play parts we put together. The media center is the first one. It's just a standard kind of off-the-shelf Kodi install, pulling media off of the local drive. You have to make sure that your media is transcoded correctly to get hardware decoding on the Pi, so that's kind of a little bit of a pain. You got to make sure it's H.264, I think, and then it works pretty well. But if you're trying to decode something the Pi doesn't have native support for, it just kind of chugs. But it works well. It works great with the media remote. We've got an external port drilled into this, so it's really easy to plug in the HDMI cable, run it up to the TV, and then you've got your own little private media center, and you're not worried about, you know, whatever weird thing the hotel has for you. The router, just talking a little bit about the software on this. Joe touched on it. This thing is really slick. If you connect to it directly, it has a nice little user interface that sits in front of the default OpenWrt interface and handles stuff automatically, like a VPN client, a VPN server, both OpenVPN and WireGuard. Makes it easy to set it up in repeater mode, which if you've ever tried to do that with OpenWrt directly is a huge pain, but this just makes it trivial. And then has a convenient link to just boost you back into the default OpenWrt interface if you want to do something like set static DHCP or any, you know, more advanced kind of stuff like that.
Also, probably most importantly, it's designed to handle splash pages when you connect to guest Wi-Fi networks. So when you connect it to a hotel Wi-Fi, it'll route that page through and bring it up on whatever device you're browsing it on.
Yeah, some routers will hijack the DNS and make those kind of pass-through captive portals impossible. This actually has a specific setting to kind of allow those captive portal kind of DNS redirects through. Motion, I don't know, has anyone here used Motion before, the security camera system? I had no experience with it. This thing is really slick. It's a very kind of Unixy security camera tool. It just does one thing. It watches a webcam in, you know, a bunch of configurable options to say, you know, watch this type for this type of motion, and then all of its other things are call out and do a script. So it's not trying to include all the batteries and include all sorts of other stuff. It's just watch a webcam, and when you see something, do some other stuff. And then it leaves it up to you to what that other stuff is. We have it set up so that it stores all the videos locally and cleans them out every 24 hours. And it also posts an alert to our custom software so that we can send email alerts and stuff like that. But again, all Motion is doing is just calling that script. So really kind of great handy little tool.
Now, Motion is the software?
Yes. Yeah, it's called Motion.
Yeah, it is. I will admit, it is kind of hard to Google, so make sure it's like Motion Video Surveillance Software or Motion, because not even just motion software, then you get like motion capture software.
Yeah.
It's in the Ubuntu repository.
I think
Yeah,
it's in most of the major
Yeah, it's in most
repositories.
repositories, but when you're trying to look it up to find the documentation, that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
It's right up there with like looking up Grow. Yes?
Did you look at ZoneMinder at all?
ZoneMinder actually uses Motion.
Yeah,
Under
it
the
uses-
hood,
Yeah,
that's-
under the hood,
Okay.
so.
And yes, I have a ZoneMinder set up at home. The goal here was we wanted everything, and I'm going to talk about the custom software in a minute, to kind of go through one user interface, so I didn't want to try to boot ZoneMinder's interface into something else. So I'll talk a little bit about the custom software. There's actually not that much. It's probably like 2,500 lines of code total. So there's a front-end React app that's designed to be touch-friendly, mobile-friendly, very limited functionality. We're not trying to replicate everything you could do by, editing the motion config or logging into the router directly. The goal here was that you could open this thing up and using that touch screen get your system online without getting up your laptop to log into the router and configuring a bunch of stuff. Back end, it talks to a Node server. I write Node software as my day job, so if you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It proxies through to the router and the camera feed so that everything goes through kind of one server, handles authenticating to the server for you, so it just kind of makes all that transparent. Proxies the camera feed, we'll see that in the demo in a second. Then it's just got a handful of utility routes for like checking if you're on the internet, controlling whether or not you get alerts, things like that. So I think,
Demo time.
yeah,
So-
we're gonna try to do this live. Pray to the demo gods for us. Yeah. So Joe's already set this up and plugged it in.
It's already powered up, and this is what you get when you power it in. And it's a little hard to see here, but we've got some screenshots. So you get to the hotel, you power it up. This is what you'd see. You'd go ahead and hit the connection tab there, and would give you a list. Well, you'd hit the scan button and the little refresh in the bottom corner.
Yep, so I've done that. See here, this is the status page where it comes up initially. There we go. Oh, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and scan for Wi-Fi network, see what's up. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect once the scan finishes from the Clarion one so we can demo this. We had this set up earlier. Once you've connected to a Wi-Fi network, it's going to automatically reconnect as you'd expect. So we'll disconnect that and connect to Clarion Inn and Suites.
And then, of course, it would pop up a password prompt if you needed a
If there-
WPA key or something like that.
which we don't really have a great solution for that yet. Okay, so you can see it's connected, but it doesn't actually connect that we can get out to the internet. It assumes we're on a captive portal. So I'm gonna hit the open button and it's gonna open up. Oh, is it not?
I think we've still got a cached connection, so even when we disconnected and reconnected.
Well, it popped open the portal. Anyway,
Okay.
okay, that's one thing that didn't work. But it's trying to open up a captive portal. Doesn't seem to be able, it's not triggering it. That's kind of hit or miss. If you've ever tried to use the captive portal detection on like an iPhone or anything like that, it's spotty as to whether or not you can actually detect when you're trying to be forwarded to one. So back to the status screen, you can see it's going to say that we're connected now. Oh, that's why I left the VPN connected. So if the VPN's connected, it works with a kill switch, so it won't allow any traffic that's not on the VPN. So obviously that includes not letting us out to the captive portal. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. So then, let's see.
There's a screenshot of the VPN page. As you see, just list the profiles you have installed on there, and you just flip them on and off.
There we go. We're connected to the internet now. The VPN's not connected, but that's just a simple toggle switch. Go ahead.
And then the security camera. It's a pretty simple interface. You can see what's on the live view coming from the camera. We've got Sit Here pointing at me. And as I'm moving around, Bob's probably getting tons of emails right now.
I have the alerts turned off because I was smart.
Good job.
So you can see the live view there. You can go ahead and turn it. Takes a little bit to catch up, but there's everyone there on the screen. If I now do enable alerts,
We promise we won't post any of your images to YouTube or online anywhere.
and I wave my hand in front of the camera, oh, I'm an evil person coming into your room to do something. And then open my phone.
Bob checks his email.
Yep, this is the part of the presentation where I check my email. It takes a second or two to come through, so you can.
Yeah. We eventually want to make it so that it'll either text us as well, or ideally, we want to figure out how to push out over Signal maybe, because we both like using that. Anyway, once you got it, that's all it takes to get it set up, and then you can kick back, watch some movies in the hotel room, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
There's the photo. It emailed me, the great high-quality photo. If it's actually standing still, it tends to look real better as opposed to kind of moving the camera around by hand. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, future goals for the project. Right now, all the software and stuff's configured by hand. We built the Pies by hand, installed all the software. We'd like to get some setup scripts because we are going to push it out, all of our software and schematics for the components out to GitHub, so anybody else can build this if they want. We also like to eventually implement some software plugins. We're just trying to figure out how that would look. As far as, I don't think neither of us, well, I don't do a whole lot of development at all, but Bob's never developed a plugin system before, so he's trying to figure that out. If anybody wants to help, by all means. We are hackers, so we'd like to put in some like automated like network scanning, see if we can detect any like cameras on the network that may be looking at like in our rooms or anything like that. Like, you know, this whole project's born out of paranoia, so. We toyed around about building in a UPS and powered speakers in case, you know, the speakers on the TV kind of suck and you just want to play some tunes. Thought about like a tamper alarm, like either like a knock switch or a gyroscope, so that if somebody like picks it up and moves it while it's running, that you know, alarm would sound or send us a notification. As part of the whole security system. Thought maybe integrating some kind of smart assistant like Mycroft or something, so we could kind of have our own kind of homebrew Alexa in the hotel room. Just complete overkill. We thought about adding, you know, retro game system. I think Cody has some emulators available for it that you can install, so you can play some video games too. One of the things the router has is cellular failover if you had a cellular modem, so we'd like to implement that, and you know, so if the Wi-Fi drops out, you can go ahead and automatically fail over to that. SDR, we're both hams and radio geeks, so we both kind of want to put a SDR in there, either if it's just like an RTL SDR, just kind of scanning and seeing what signals it picks up. Be kind of fun just to have it waterfall displayed on the screen while it's doing that. Any other sensors we can think of, you know, air quality or stuff like that. You know, I've got a box of components, so whatever I can find, I'll probably just cram in there at some point. File share server, we'll probably just do a quick, that'll probably be one of the first things we do, throw in like a Nextcloud server, probably connected to the Kodi server, so you can just easily upload your media as opposed to having to remove the hard drive, do it by hand. Plus, then you can share it out over the anybody else connected to the hotel room. Self-destruct. I mean, who doesn't want a big red button that you can press in like in case of emergencies? So yeah, just have. Eventually, we'd like to, you know, do full disk encryption on the Pies, and then, you know, just have a big red button and you hit that, delete the keys, reboot the system, and everything's scrambled and you're good to go. Iron Blasters kind of really dropped on priority since we've got pretty slick Wi-Fi remote now, but it'd still be nice to turn on the TV. The use case for that would be if we're not using HDMI, because the Pies do have, what is that, ECE or whatever the extended protocol for HDMI to give some control over the TV. The Pies do have it, and I think Kodi uses it, but that might not work in all situations. So, like I said, full disk encryption, and then you know, I designed all the brackets and mounts and stuff in here. I'm particularly proud of like the screen mount and the power brick mount. I wrote a project box generator in OpenSCAD and used them both for that, and I think they came out pretty slick looking. But some of the other brackets and stuff in there could use some tweaks. I think we could rearrange things a little bit better, get things a little lower profile, and so I'd like to work on that as well. Anyway, this is going to be the URL where we're going to post this, GitHub STL 2600, because Bob and I both present our hosts of the local 2600 in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Arch Reactor Hackerspace.
All of the software is up there now. You can check it out. It's mainly just the custom software and some instructions on setting it up. We'll add all the files and the assembly instructions kind of as we get them prepped.
I've got the document. I've written most of the documentation for how to set everything up. I've also got all the models for the components, so you can print and laser cut them yourself if you have means. I intend to post them this weekend. I'm not going to make that promise because I'm horrible about that kind of stuff. Questions?
Hey, do you intend to make a commercial version of this in the future?
I don't think so. Bob and I are both, I mean, it's all off-the-shelf parts.
Right.
Aside from the brackets and stuff, we really didn't design any electronics or anything. I don't know if there's anything really, Bob, you're a patent guy. Is there anything really patentable in this?
No.
I didn't think so. So, yeah, no, and we're both pretty big open source guys. We'd rather have it open, let people do it themselves. Plus, you saw the bill of materials, the cost isn't,
And honestly, like you said, 95% of the benefit and the thing we made this for is in the router. Like, if you just want a nice, easy, secure network you can take with you, grab that router and plug it in, and it does most of what you need. We almost didn't build this project because that router exists.
yes,
How do you deal with traveling? So getting on planes with it? You just,
I will let you know.
oh.
I'm looking forward to that. Sorry?
You haven't taken it through an airport yet?
No, we just finished this.
This was an empty box yesterday morning. There is a 3D printer in our hotel room that was printing out mounts.
Well, it's come a long way.
I mean, we've been working on it a couple months. Here's an important tip. When you start a big project, don't do it when one of the team party members just had a kid and both team members buy new houses and move during the course of the project. That really puts a cramp on your ability to work on projects.
We should have gone to that time management talk.
For the airport, you need just one little speaker in there that will go tick, tick, tick.
I thought about I tried to convince Bob that we needed a big countdown clock for the boot process. I am actually quite curious because last time I went through an airport, I had a Pi Top, which didn't have a hard drive, and I brought it through airport. Maybe I guess I must have checked it previous, but brought it carry-on to Vegas this past year, and they put it through the X-ray 5 times. And like by the 4th time, I was like, I will disassemble this right here now for you if you want to take a look inside. The panel just slides back. It's really easy. But they're like, no, we're all right. And so, yeah, I'm really curious to see how this goes through. Any other questions? Yes?
So I carry ham radio equipment and computer equipment through airport security all the time. All I would say is avoid airports in Texas.
That's probably fair. I used to travel for business probably 15 years ago. And even with just a regular toolkit, like airport security, the TSA varies wildly from airport to airport. Like there's no consistency. Some of them want to search it, some of them want to search it with you there, some of them don't care. Some of them will take your empty butane soldering iron, but leave the butane in the compressed canister. There's no rhyme or reason for any of it. So, yeah.
You know, the more parts that you take out and put separate in bins and things, the better they feel about you.
Yeah, that's true. Anything else? All right, we're done, right?
Yeah, thanks everybody. If you want to come take a look at it.